Hello, welcome back to my channel, and of course welcome back to the desk corner. If you haven't been here before, thanks for clicking on today's video. I am doing another Halloween related video, of course, because that's all I'm going to be doing in October, so hopefully you guys are okay with that. And in today's video, I am drawing a raven with charcoal. So it's going to be a little bit of a tutorial and a little bit of me just talking about the drawing because I haven't used charcoal in so long that I didn't want to make it a straight tutorial, and I haven't really drawn a bird in charcoal before, so I didn't really know what I was doing going into it, but I did learn some tips along the way that I could share with you guys. And of course I do have the friend here who is obviously a crow I got from Michael's, but we can just pretend like he's a raven because he fits the theme. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started with talking about the raven. I'm going to be using charcoal pencils for this. I have the General's charcoal pencils in extra soft, soft, and medium, not hard because my hard pencil turned out to be extremely scratchy. I also have the white General's charcoal pencil, and then I have these two. I just threw them in there. They're actually oil-based charcoal, and I thought maybe I could use them for some details, but these are not necessary. I just kind of wanted to throw them in there. And then I included two gel pens, and that's because my, what is this called? My Signo Uniball pen, which is my favorite gel pen ever, is kind of drying up a little bit, so I have to buy a new one. So this would be my preferred gel pen that I would use, but I'm actually just using this Jelly Roll pen for now because it's not dried up yet, and this one is, sadly, and I haven't got to buying new art supplies yet, but that's okay. And I'm also using this blending stump, which is really great for charcoal. Now this white charcoal pencil is going to turn out to actually be really important in this drawing because I'm going to be using this on top of the black to create a gray and smooth looking, almost shiny, but it's not shiny the way graphite is, just a very smooth looking feather on the bird, which is a little bit hard to get just with the black charcoal itself. And now let's move on to the voiceover portion of this video, and there is a bit of change in audio quality, which I apologize for. That is because I have two separate microphones, and this one, even though it is the better one, it doesn't attach to my camera, sadly, so I can't use it for intros and things like that. But I will upgrade that microphone that I use for my camera eventually. Right now I have to deal with the one I have, which makes my voice sound a little bit strange. It's not really how my voice actually sounds, and I get a bit of buzz in the background, but I do apologize for that. Now with this drawing, I'm not going to narrate the way I do normally with a tutorial because, to be honest, I didn't completely know what I was doing here. I had never drawn a bird with charcoal before, and I had never used my white charcoal pencil with my black charcoal pencils to try and create like a smooth looking surface or feather or whatever, so I'm not really a complete expert on this, but I will give some tips along the way of things that I kind of learned as I was doing this drawing and working on this, and what I learned through the process of this drawing. But what I can tell you guys, because I do this with all my charcoal drawings, is with charcoal it's great to create some underlayer first, the way I'm doing here, and then go in and smooth it out with something like a blending stump so that you get a bit of a base layer in, and really you don't want to add your details in until towards the end for most of the drawing, because like I did a little bit of detailing on the eye, and I will do some on the beak as well, but for the majority of the bird, I'm not going to add too many details in until I'm finished building up all those layers, and there are going to definitely be a lot of layers. So the good thing about this is I've slowed it down a little bit more than usual so that you can kind of see what I'm doing here without me narrating everything. But also you can see which color pencils I'm using for each portion. So the orange ones are the normal charcoal pencils, and then the natural wood color is the white charcoal, and then every so often you'll see me go in with the black charcoal pencils, which are just the oil-based ones that sharpen to a finer point, so I can really use those for details or areas that are a little bit lighter as well. And then you'll see me use my Tombow Mono eraser to pick up highlights throughout. And I'm very much a person when I'm working on something that is dark, for example with charcoal, I'm very much the type of artist who will go in and pull out all the highlights later or add them in later, and I'm not so great at leaving them to begin with. Of course with some mediums you have to, but with charcoal, since you can go in on top with white and just kind of lift up some areas, I will kind of do that at the end for a lot of the portions of the areas that are highlighted. I'm not an expert in feathers with charcoal, so that's why I'm not going to give a ton of tips for this. But I will say that using that white pencil really helped me to get the smooth result that I wanted, and you will see me doing that in a bit. I also, of course, used my Tombow eraser to pick out some highlights and create some strokes that look feather-like as well. So while I'm going about with doing all these feathers and creating all these underlayers, I'd like to talk a little bit about why I decided to do this drawing. So of course one of the reasons is because I was really excited this year to do some Halloween drawings and just create a few tutorials or videos out of them. But last year I actually did want to draw a raven and I didn't get around to it. I was doing Inktober too, so it was a little bit tough for me to finish too many drawings because I was so focused on doing my Inktober drawings every day as well, which overwhelmed me a little bit. But this year, of course, I'm not doing Inktober. I know a lot of people are not, or they're doing Drawtober or something like that due to the whole scandal. But anyways, I have more time this year to work on specific pieces, and this was one that I remembered I wanted to do last year, and I decided I would end up doing it this year. Ravens have always fascinated me, and a lot of the bigger birds have as well. That sounds weird, bigger birds, like Big Bird the character, but a lot of the birds of prey, I guess you would call them. I don't know if a raven is considered one. But birds of prey and large birds that are really beautiful have always kind of interested me. I did a drawing of an eagle a couple years ago. I recently did a macaw, and I plan on doing some more birds as well because I really find them to be beautiful and majestic creatures. As far as animal drawings go, I kind of avoid a lot of animals that have fur, but for some reason I'm not as intimidated by feathers or scales. I've done some reptiles as well, so I don't really know what my aversion to fur is, but hopefully I get into drawing a few more animals with fur eventually because I can't just keep avoiding it forever. So at this stage in the drawing, I have added some of the white charcoal to some areas, and you'll notice which areas those are because they look a bit more gray and it has a bit of a bluish tone to it. So I think that the white charcoal on top of the black gives a little bit more of that bluish gray tone that you don't get just from using a black charcoal pencil by itself. And again, I'm not really sure exactly why this happened. I'm not sure if it's the brand of charcoal, which was General's, the white pencil, or if it's something else, if this always happens with white charcoal. I'm just not really sure. I think this always happens with white charcoal. I don't know, I just haven't used it enough or tried enough brands. For anybody who does use it more often, let me know what you think or what you know about white charcoal pencils because I just don't know very much about it. I've always had this pencil though. It came with one of my sets that I bought and I decided finally that I was going to attempt to use it. This drawing kind of reminded me of a person for some reason. It's just like a close-up, very close-up, like headshot with the shoulders in. It's kind of like a bust shot. I don't know, it's kind of weird. It looks a little bit like it could be a person in a costume, although of course it's not, but just the way that the bird is posed and the way the picture is taken. So I found that a little bit funny, and that's why I chose this photo to use for my drawing. I thought it was a bit Halloween-esque compared to some of the other ones that I saw. And that does explain to any of you who are wondering why I didn't decide to do the entire body of the bird. I just wanted to do the kind of like headshot here, I guess. And that's because I just really liked the way that this particular photo was taken, so I chose to do this one. Okay, so I did skip a couple of clips here because I didn't actually record the entire process of this drawing. I actually did some of it at night. So I don't really have a great lighting system set up. I kind of just have my white light lamps that kind of cast too much of a bright spotlight on my papers. I'm going to look into upgrading that soon, but I mostly use daylight, so I don't really work on my drawings at night if I'm planning on recording them, but I was really eager to work on this, and that's why there's a few clips missing from this. Also, I'm at a stage here where there's not a lot of contrast because I haven't gone in and pulled out a lot of highlights, and I haven't really gone in with my white pencil enough either. So that's kind of what I mean by ugly stages. Right now, the drawing is a bit dark for my taste. It doesn't really look very realistic. It looks a bit flat, but I will go in and fix that. My Tombow Mono Zero Eraser is a lifesaver. I love to use it to pick out all those little detailed highlights and everything like that. So I don't know if I could create a charcoal drawing without it, really. Now, I did have some struggles with the drawing. For example, there were some smaller feathers right above the eye that I wasn't really sure how to create and make look realistic, so I struggled a little bit with that. I did also struggle with some of the feathers that come down right underneath the beak and trying to make them look realistic and like they layered over each other, because I'm not the best at fur and feathers. At least not with charcoal, because I really have not practiced with it before. So now I'm going to go in and start to pick up some highlights, and sometimes I accidentally make an area too light, so then I have to darken it up again, and it's really just a process of continuing to do that until I get the result that I desire. And it's also really fun to pick out all those details and the little directions that the feathers are going in with my eraser or with the white pencil. It's really fun for me. I don't know why, I have the most fun creating details and little strokes. I guess I could talk a little bit more about the beak too. So as you can see, there was a bit of, I don't know what you call it, like feathers or hair on the very top of the beak that I used the black pencil to portray, but I'm gonna, I think, add a little bit more detail there, I'm not sure. And then I also used the white pencil directly underneath where the beak closes. So there's a bit of a dark shadowed area right above that, and then sometimes if you have an area that's really white and highlighted right next to a dark area in a reference photo, sometimes you really want to make that contrast apparent in your drawing because it is pretty important for making it look realistic. And then you can also see I picked out some little detailed highlights in the bottom part of the beak and even the top part of the beak as well. And I don't believe I've gone in with the gel pen too much yet, but I'm going to let you know when I do, because that is a little bit bright and you want to be careful not to overdo it if you're going to pull out highlights with a gel pen. Okay, so now I'm going in and really sharpening up those feathers with the white charcoal, with the regular charcoal, with my blending stump, with everything really. I'm trying to get everything together. Actually, I think I stopped using my blending stump at this point because I didn't want to mess up any of the details. So in areas where you have already put in details, you probably don't want to use your blending stump too much because you're going to spread out those details a little bit. But in some of the areas where I wasn't finished yet, or those darker areas, I could go ahead and use my blending stump. And yes, I guess I worked on that hair above the beak again as well, as I remembered that I did. Also, you might see me going in with my kneaded eraser and fixing all those smudges that ended up all over the paper because they got on my hand and then got on the paper. And I know you're not supposed to have your hand on the paper itself, so I do have a little kind of index card I use a bit to protect my hand from the paper, or no, to protect the paper from my hand, but I guess I wasn't being very good with it because I still kind of had my hand resting on the paper a lot, and I ended up creating smudges all over the place. I really am a sucker for detail, you guys, so creating all those little hairs or feathers that kind of show off underneath the beak was really fun for me, and especially these little areas with the gel pen. Now at first I kind of created this ring of gel pen around the eye, and then I realized it was way too bright, so I went over it with the charcoal a little bit. There's a lot of gel pen detailing along the beak and the areas around the beak and the face, but I didn't want to overdo it too much and create all gel pen highlights because then it was just going to look a little bit too bright for me. So for the most part I used my white charcoal pencil or my eraser to pull up highlights, and the gel pen is only for those areas that were extremely bright. It actually did bother me a bit too that I had that whole section on the right. I was going to say the bird's shoulder, but it's the wing, but I almost said shoulder because it does look like the shoulder, and I don't really know if you call it a shoulder with a bird. But that whole right area I left completely unfinished for the longest time, which did bother me watching these clips back because everything else looks like I've worked on it at least to some level. In fact, most of the areas looked almost finished at this point, and I hadn't worked on that area on the right-hand side. But it was out of fear of smudging the paper or smudging anything on the drawing because I am right-handed, so I did want to work on the area that is to the far right last. So now do you guys kind of see what I mean by the white charcoal creating a bit of like a bluish tone and a smoothed out kind of look, because that's really what I got from this. And in the reference photo, the feathers were a bit smooth and shiny looking like that too, so I was really happy that I could get that result just by layering the white charcoal on top of the black like that. I don't really know, I guess now I'll have to always incorporate white charcoal now that I know how great it is. I just never knew what it was really for besides colored paper, so I never gave it too much of a chance. And finally, I started to actually work on the right side. There were some really pretty feathers on the right side, and please ignore that horrible sloppy sketch that I just did in charcoal, which I normally wouldn't do, but this drawing is so especially dark that it didn't really matter too much, and I didn't feel like sketching it out in graphite. All these feathers on the right are going to end up looking kind of bluish too, because I'm going to layer on top of the black with the white charcoal pencil to give that shiny look to the feathers. And then of course I'm going to smooth out all the messiness and make sure that everything looks polished. And I think everything else in the drawing is done at this point, so this is the last little portion that I am finishing up here. And it's done. Here's the completed piece. I'm actually really proud of this one, so I'm curious to hear what you guys think about it. I think that there's a lot of contrast that I wouldn't have necessarily gotten if I didn't use the white charcoal pencil in combination with my regular black charcoal pencils, of course. My goal with this drawing was not just to create a Halloween themed drawing, but also I wanted to capture the beauty and how majestic and strong this bird is, and I think that I was able to live up to that and capture the essence in this drawing, so I am actually really happy with it. Anyways, you guys, that's all for today's video, and by the way, I do have plans to recreate one of my spider drawings from last year's Inktober because I did get a couple of requests to do so, and I'm planning to do so in the next couple of weeks. It might be like a bonus video, and I'm also working on my next Halloween drawing, which is probably going to be the final large drawing because it will take me a little while to complete, but you can expect to see that one next week around Halloween time. And as always, I hope that you enjoyed today's video. Leave a comment down below letting me know what you thought if you would like to, and I will hopefully see you guys in the next video. And I also just want to thank you guys so much for watching my videos, and hopefully a lot of you are enjoying this kind of Halloween series because I really cannot curb my obsession enough to not make Halloween videos. But anyways, I have to stop my rambling now, but again, I'll see you guys in the next video, and thank you guys so much for supporting this channel. Bye guys!